say, I think you will be surprised about some of the achievements he's had in his career. I think you will also be surprised by he's truly one of the good guys around, and he has one of those good hearts. So, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, our friend with his book, A Time to Thank, Mr. Steve Gutenberg. Hey, buddy boy.
Thank you so much, and thanks, Tone, for doing this.
How cool is this, Steve?
It's really great.
Very cool. By the way, everybody in the building said hi. We used to live in the same building.
Yeah. Oh, everybody. How's everybody there?
Everybody says hi. Everybody's like, why does he come around?
I always try to visit. Always try to bring pizza to everybody. I love the guys. I lived there for a long time, and hopefully we'll live there again.
I'm not fubbing you. You know, fubbing. That's when you look at your phone when you're with people. You fubbed them. I'm not fubbing you. I'm looking for what I wrote for him, and I'm realizing that I better make it brighter. Oh, God, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Steve, so just to start, I know what I want to start with. I think even before we get to the book, and some of this is in the book, but before we get to the book, I just thought maybe you could familiarize the people with who you are. Sure. You know, where you come from, your ties to New York. Steve's parents gave him $300. Two weeks after he graduated high school at 17, it sent him to Hollywood. But anyway, so we want to hear about who you are and maybe some about the career.
Sure.
All right?
When I was 12 years old, a really good friend of my family, my mother and father, they grew up in Borough Park, and he went to the High School Performing Arts, and he went out to Hollywood and became an actor. And he did okay as an actor, but he became a great voiceover artist. So he became very famous in the voiceover world, and he made a lot of money. And whenever he would visit us, he would always come with a Cadillac and a beautiful girlfriend. He always had money. So people would say to me...
In my neighborhood, it was the mafia. But go ahead.
They were the real stars. And, so everybody said, what do you want to be? I said, what does Michael do? And they say, he's an actor. I go, I want to be an actor. So that was it. That's really how I started. I joined a teen repertory theater in Queens, and then we moved to Long Island.
Oh, so wait a minute. So you're from Queens originally?
Right. Born in Borough Park, and I lived in Borough Park till I was about 3, 4. Then we moved to Flushing, and then we lived there till I was about 8, and then we moved to Massapequa. And in PS 121, I did some plays. And then
wait. Your father's a cop, right?
Right. My dad was also a U.S. Army Ranger, and he actually enlisted on his own, and then he became a New York City policeman.
He was a beat cop too.
He was.
This is back in the '60s when we used to have, cops on the beat.
Yeah. He loved it. He loved being a cop, and my mom couldn't take waiting for him every night, so she said, I want you to do something else. And her cousin Harvey had an electronics company. And my dad was an electrical engineer. We went to City College. So, and it was the beginning of semiconductors. So he started out doing semiconductors and was there from the beginning of it. So we lived in Flushing. And then we were playing in the backyard. My sister Judy's here somewhere. And
couldn't get her a better seat, for Christ.
That's my... We we're a humble group. So we played in the snake pit, my dad called it, in the back. And finally he said, I want you to move. We want to move to Long Island. And that's when we moved to Massapequa. And that's where I grew up and went to a Town of Oyster Bay teen repertory theater. We started doing children's theater. I did Rapunzel and Snow White and those kind of things at all the libraries. And I really enjoyed it.
I can't help but wonder what part you played in Snow White.
I wanted to be Snow White, but they wouldn't let me.
That's what I was afraid of.
I was hoping, I had a great time, and I really started to enjoy it, mostly because the girls and the boys all were in one dressing room. There was just a sheet between us. And like the first time I ever thought, oh my God, there's women here. These are girls.
That's why we all became actors.
That's why we all became actors. And then when I was 17, I did a lot of plays, and then I studied here in the city a little bit. And then right after I graduated high school, at 17, I wanted to go out and stay with Michael and try to become a film actor. So my parents said, okay, you got 2 weeks to become a movie star. And if it doesn't work out, you're going to go to Albany State, upstate New York, SUNY. So I went out there, and my first 2 weeks, I got a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. And I loved it. I mean, being on a set, it was in the Rose Bowl, the cameras, everything. And I said, begged my parents, can I stay another month? Stayed another month. I got more commercials. I got a teen movie with Phil Silvers.
Yeah, now tell me a little bit. You know, that's unbelievable. See, this is what I mean. He has this he's like the Zelig kind of guy, you know. He's around. So what was Phil Silvers like, you know? Yeah. I mean, Bilko, Sergeant Bilko.
Yeah, he was a master. In 1 second, he did routines that he remembered from 50 years ago, jokes. He would do the whole thing that he used to do with Sinatra.
Well, you know, he wrote that song for Sinatra, Nancy with the Laughing Face.
And that's what he,
yeah, that's the song he wrote.
He was really good buddies, and he did all these routines on me that he used to do with Sinatra. He was super funny, but he could not drive. My parents came out, and Judy remembers, they came out to watch the filming of this movie, and Phil Silvers had a Cadillac, and he liked my father. And he said, Stanley, watch me drive this Cadillac. I'm great at driving. So they go like, Phil, do you want a stunt guy to drive? He said, no, I can do this. Anyway, he's supposed to come down a street and stop right in front of the camera. They had some sandbags or whatever. Like, supposed to stop. He went over the sandbags, over the curb, started like, people were running out of the way and everything. And he stopped and he got out and he said, ha, ha, ha. And he did his line. And they said, Phil, you're not even on camera.
Missed your mark.
And he said, you guys don't know how to film movies. But and then I got friendly with him. He played the clarinet really beautifully, and he lived in a big penthouse in Century City, a little part of LA. And I would go there for dinner all the time. He'd have dinner parties with all kinds of stars, Jane Russell and Widmark. And
so you knew, so you were there. You were there in time. See, it's one of the things I'm most happy about is my timing.
Yeah.
And I get there, and they're still running around.
You met and got to know all the good guys. The real guys.
Older Hollywood, just this older.
Yeah, and they had great manners, and they were kind, and they were generous to the younger people.
Very much so.
Yeah.
All right, so now just tell us just a few of the credits. Just be, IMDb-ish.
I did after Chicken Chronicles, with Phil Silvers. I did a movie called Boys from Brazil. I was actually at Albany State. I quit after a year of Hollywood. I just was so lonely out there. I didn't make any friends. Young actors are very competitive. So I quit, and I went back to school. And I was going to study and become a dentist, and I wanted to have a regular life. Thank you. As a dentist, it's a great life. You have a dentist here? There's a dentist. Oh, great. And
I'm going to the dentist tomorrow.
Oh, you're going to the dentist? Can we do something now and save you some money? And I got a call from my agent, a guy named Arnold Rifkin.
Arnold.
So he called me, he goes, I got an audition for you. They really want you because they saw this Phil Silvers movie. I went down to New York. I got the job. And I took the bait, and I went to Portugal, and I did this movie, Boys from Brazil, with Olivier and Greg Peck and James Mason. And Uta Hagen. So I had a great time over there, and then I came back, and then I did a TV series called Billy that didn't last long, and then I did a movie with Ali McGraw and Robert Evans producing called Players, about tennis.
Yes.
And Dino Martin. Did you know Dino?
I did. Yeah, I know. I knew the family. My brother went out with Dina.
Oh,
so yeah. It was like I was almost in the family. It was
you were
close.
almost in there, and Dean was. I went over to their house in Truesdale a lot, and Dean he would open up his refrigerator. I never saw a refrigerator like that in my life. It was fully stocked, they had a butler and everything. And he loved, I don't know if he made you you ever make you a sandwich? He would make sandwiches, the best sandwiches I ever had. And I said, there's Dean Martin making me a sandwich. So I did that movie, and then I got cast in this movie Diner. And it really worked, yeah. And then I did a 3D movie called The Man Who Wasn't There, which nobody clapped. And I don't know if you saw that movie. And then I got Police Academy. And then that took off, and I got a bunch of other pictures.
Yeah, well, that's what I want people to know, that you've been in those kind of situations. Now let's talk about the book. So the book, you know what was interesting when I journal. I've been journaling now this is my 31st year. Wow. I read a page a day, and sometimes I read 2 pages because I'm behind, but I try to keep up with it. And that was I felt like I was reading a journal to some degree when I read the book. Why'd you write it? And tell us about some of the characters in it.
My whole family was taking care of my dad. My dad had kidney failure.
Now, by the way, can I ask at what age? Because I don't think we find that out.
Yeah, he started having kidney failure probably when he was about 80, but he started needing dialysis at about 84, 85.
Okay, just to put it in perspective for people.
And so I would leave the house. I was living here, and I was going out for a month and looking after Dad and helping out with the family because he was living in Phoenix with my sister Susan and her family. And then I would come back here month after month. And then it started getting to the point where I said, I got to move out there. So instead of moving to Phoenix, I moved to LA, had a little house there, and I would leave at 3 in the morning on Monday morning, drive there. It took about 6 hours, get there in time to take him to dialysis, help my sister Susan out. And I would take him to dialysis Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then I'd drive back, and it would be an 800-mile trip. So I never saw anybody in LA. It took me a day or two to get over it, and I was kind of really depressed about my dad and seeing him get more ill and losing weight and, just sitting in the room with him and looking at his coal black eyes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, do it, yeah.
I just want people to understand this relationship, because that's the most incredible thing about the relationship that you had with him. I mean, I hate to say it, but it made me kind of jealous. But it was just such a beautiful relationship. So can we talk about that and the origin of it, and you know what I mean, how it starts?
My dad was always good to me. He was really good to me. He put up with me. I wasn't a bad kid, but I always was a little bit of trouble. And my dad had a way of, one day they got a new car, a Ford Elite, and it was delivered there, and Judy will remember this. And it was delivered. My mother was coming home at 5 o'clock. She was a surgical assistant, a podiatrist. So at 3 o'clock, they deliver the car. It's sitting in the driveway. And I decide, I'm 12 years old, I know everything. And I decide to get in the car, and I close the door. And the dashboard rattles. I open the door, close the door, it rattles. Something wrong with the dashboard. I'm going to go down, get my father's Phillips screwdriver, and I'm going to take the dashboard off. I'm going to find out what's wrong with this dashboard before my mom and dad come back. I'm going to fix it. Took the dashboard off. I didn't know what's going on. It was like a robot under there. I tried to put it on. It was askew. Anyway, I put it back. The radio buttons were like this. So my mother comes home, and she's going crazy over the car. Chocolate brown, so beautiful, unbelievable. She opens up the door. She looks and goes, "What the F is wrong with the dashboard?" And Judy and Susan, my sisters, give me up right away. And she's crazy. My mother was vicious, chasing me around, hitting me, banging. My father came home. He looked at the dashboard. He said, "Who did this?" And Judy and Susan are like, he brings me upstairs. He had a really good way. Put me on the bed. He said, "Stephen, what's wrong with you?" And he said, "Think about it. What's wrong with you?" Thought about it. I went, "I don't know, Dad." He goes, "Okay, don't do that again." I go, "Okay." And that was it.
That was it.
And we had a great friendship. I had a drawer full of firecrackers one time, and my mother flipped out because I was lighting firecrackers out of the bathroom window. No one could hear me because it was the back of the house. So my mother was going to kill me, and she wanted to put all the firecrackers in the bathtub and soak them. And my dad said, "No, we're going to take the firecrackers in the backyard, and Stephen and I are going to light every firecracker." And he just had a really good way with me. He taught me how to lift weights. He pumped me up about school. Sometimes I was shy, or I didn't have any confidence. He helped me study, and we talked. And I could tell you the thing about my dad. My dad was the best listener I've ever seen in my life. He would look at you. He wouldn't think about a laundry list or where he has to go or what he's going to say. And when you said, you know, and I drove down the street, oh, you drove down the street, was it icy? He listened to everything. He had an incredible ability to listen. So as a young man, as a boy, he always listened to me. And it was like, and you know that saying, you know, if he had a way that you're the only person in the room or whatever, that was just a saying and a lot of people use it, but he really was that way. And we were good friends and we did things together. We took walks together. He taught me how to drive. And I was a terrible driver. You know, I was going up, just worse than Phil Silvers. And he had a patient way about me. You know when your father, your mother takes you driving in the parking lot or the industrial center. So we became really good friends. And my dad, I remember him teaching me how to put on my pajamas, teaching me how to go in the shower, teaching me how to shave. And then when my dad wasn't well, I helped him put his pajamas on. I helped him shave. I helped him in the shower. And I didn't want to do those things. I didn't want my dad to be ill. I didn't want him to be frail. You know, one of the worst days I ever had was we had to tell my dad he couldn't drive anymore. It's horrible. And you know that from your parents. You know what it's like. And I'm sure people here know what it's like. It's just heartbreaking to see your strength, the strong people can't do that anymore. It just doesn't make sense. So my father always supported me in Hollywood. When I was out in Hollywood, I had a little studio apartment, and I was 19 years old, and he would call me every day at 6 a.m. Stephen, get up, get up. And I go, I'm up, Dad. No, you're not up. Get up. I had a fold-out couch. That was my bed. And he'd say, come on, get up, fold the couch up, and let's get going. I fold the couch up, and so he supported me. He loved Hollywood. He loved Hollywood. But he understood that he always said it was a beautiful pair of scissors. They're beautiful, but they can cut you. And he said, at any time you want, when you're done, you can leave. You don't have to do this. You can do something else. It's a lot of fun for the family. It gave us a lot of, you know, because of the money or the things, gives us some security. But you don't have to do this if you don't want to do this. It's a very fragile, he said, you're a fungible commodity. You know, no matter who you are, you're very fungible. So he always supported me. He loved to go to movie sets. He loved the craft service table. You know, we all have, whenever you're a civilian, you go there, there's sandwiches, there's cookies, you know, oh my God. He loved the trailers, but he always had a very pragmatic point of view about it. He goes, it's nice, but it's not the greatest thing in the world. I remember one time I was the king of, in Mardi Gras, they have a parade called Bacchus. And I was honored to be the king of Bacchus. I was going down there, my father's there, and he's like, oh my God, he would throw in the beads. Then you get into the Super Bowl, there's 100,000 people in tuxedos and everything. I'll never forget my friend Jill Siegel, the nice couple, Al and Jill Siegel, were there. And I was up on a platform, and people were screaming. And they said, Stanley, look at your son. Look at your son up there. And they said, isn't this great? Stanley, isn't this great? And he said, yeah, but I could be back at the hotel watching TV.
All right.
That was he was very much like.
All right. So now switch to what you wrote about in the book, and what the relationship changes to once he's ill.
You know, when he got ill, I didn't want it to change. I didn't want to be the strong one. My dad was always a strong one. My dad had a triple bypass. He was in the ICU. This is 30 years ago. And I'll never forget, I came to the ICU, and we one at a time. And I got really upset. And I held his hand. And I was very upset. And he pulled his 2 fingers out. And he did this to say, it's okay. He had a tube down his mouth, he had the breathing
He's
tube.
intubated, yeah.
He was doing this, it's okay. So when he got sick, we had to take him to dialysis. We'd always play this song, Earth Angel. That was his favorite song. I played it in the car all the time.
Penguins.
Yeah, the Penguins.
Sorry.
All right, thanks. Thank you. So it was hard. He was a robust, 190-pound, strong guy. And one day he looked at his legs. He went, look at my legs. Look how thin they are. And no, Dad, you look great. Dad, you're strong. You're strong. He goes, no, look at my legs. Look at my arms. Look at the skin. And I would always deny it. And what happened in our relationship, to the day he passed, I would deny it. No, Dad, you're going to live. You're going to live. Dad, you're going to be okay. And he said, I don't know. He said, I don't want to say I want to die, but this is a terrible way to live. Eventually, he had dialysis 3 times a week, then 4 times a week, then 5 times a week. And my sister Susan was really smart. She was able to sort of get us into this medical facility where we learned how to become, dialysis technicians.
Home dialysis.
And we were able to do Dad because he was a veteran, and the VA was great. We were able to do Dad because he was a veteran, and the VA was great. Gave us $200,000 worth of equipment a year. And we were able to cannulate my dad at home, which means you put the needle in and needle out. And we were able to do that at home. It was tough on him. And I would sit alone with him. And that's why I wrote the book for caregivers, because it's a very lonely occupation, sitting with someone who's sick that you see wither every day. And sometimes you walk in and you go, oh, because you have this vision of your mom or your dad like this. And you go, oh, no, no. And you can't do that. You can't say that. But I would sit with my dad all the time. A lot of times he'd have these cold black eyes, and he'd look at me and go, mm-hmm. And I go, it's okay, Dad. We're doing good, Dad. We're doing good. And even the day he passed, he had the fingers get gray. And I would massage his fingers. No, Dad, you're going to be okay, Dad. You're going to come back, Dad. And my sister Susan had the talk with him. The talk of you can go, Dad. You can go. It's okay, Dad. You can go. And she walked out of the room, and I said, no, you're not going anywhere, Dad. You're not going anywhere, Dad. You can come back, Dad. You can come back. And then the moment, and we were sitting there at 10 o'clock at night, Susan and I, and a nurse was there. And we were moving him up in his chair. And I looked at him, and I put my head next to him. And Susan goes, what's wrong? I go, Dad? 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 And then the nurse came over and she looked at me and she goes, he's gone. No. And I yelled, Dad, 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 come back, Dad, come back. Dad, Dad. I started doing CPR on him. Dad, come back. Dad, come back. I couldn't accept that he was gone. When you break a leg, you have a cold, you come back. I couldn't believe he was gone. Mm-hmm. He was so strong. This is the guy who would pick me up. Even when I was a teenager, he'd pick me up and go, yeah. And I'd go like, oh.
So let me ask you something. So, one of the things that I think about my parents and stuff is that I was really determined to make sure that we were straight when they left. Like there was nothing left unsaid. Did that come into play, that kind of thinking?
Yes, but years before that,
mm-hmm.
I would always say, Dad, I love you. Dad, I love you. And you go, I love you too. I go, no, Dad, I really love you. And he'd go, I love you too. And I would kiss him. I would hold him. Same with my mom. I always say, I love you, Mom. I love you. And I try to tell the people I love you. I love you.
But there was nothing, it was like, my brother and I have this conversation all the time. But there was nothing that you felt you needed to say before he was gone?
No, interestingly enough, he would say to me things like, I could have become a doctor. I didn't do that. And I would always say, no, Dad, you were great. You're a great dad. You're a great husband. You're a great father. You're a great friend. You're a great soldier. You're a great cop. You're a great executive. There was, interestingly enough, and I know that happens, but never, there was nothing other than, I would just say, Dad, you can't leave. I would just say, Dad, you can't leave me.
Yeah. Well, don't get me wrong. Unfortunately, we all make this deal, and there's no like, at some point, somebody, you have to let go. I was just wondering, what do you think causes that in you to not accept, I mean.
I don't know.
Obviously.
I don't know. I think I just could. I think that perhaps I don't deal with certain parts of reality very well.
Oh.
I think I don't want to. I don't want to believe. I don't want to believe that this won't be here. I don't want to believe when things are bad. I deny it. I don't know why I don't handle death very well. And,
well, I mean, it's not handling it well. I'm not even sure that's possible,
Yeah, or just,
But I'm just saying stoically, maybe. But
yeah,
well.
I don't think I handle bad things. I cope, but I think there might have a little thing in me that I don't want to know. I don't want to accept how bad it is. And I knew he was dying. My doctor said to me, "Your dad's dying." I go, "What? No, he's not dying. He's dying." And I just...
Yeah, I mean, I'm just surprised, I'm just thinking, at some point you have to kind of accept, the cards you dealt.
It's always hard for me to accept, like, that,
So then writing the book then is some sort of cathartic reach for him, or...
Yeah, I was writing it while he was sick. I would write
And he read most of it, am I right?
He read it. I didn't know the end was he's going to pass. But
the end was not filled in yet.
No, I thought the end was going to be like, and then we went and had food, and Dad's okay. But the hard parts were very tough, and I used to listen to certain music. I listened to this one song, recent song by Elton John and Dua Lipa, where they do a sort of a melody of some of his...
I'd like to help you, but I'm a little old for this.
What was the Rocket Man?
Well, I know that.
They do some of Rocket Man where he says, "I'm not the man people think I am," and there's a line in there going, "I'm just passing through." And when I was writing it, I was looking at Dad, and I realized, and he would say that to me all the time, "Stephen, I'm not going to be here forever." And I would think that he's just passing through. And I play that song and right next to him when the dialysis machines is whirring and whirring. And then I would look at it, and sometimes it gets stuck, and you have to get the technician, or when we're doing it at home, it gets stuck, and we have to deal with the complication. But I think it was cathartic in a good way. I loved telling the stories that were great about my dad. Like when he had a Volkswagen Bug, and he put me in the car. I was like 2 years old, and he's washing the car, and it was middle of summer, and he takes the water off, and there I am sitting there sweating. I'm like, and he didn't know I was sweating, Or stories about, you remember Adventureland on Route 110?
He would have got arrested lately, but now. But go ahead.
Yeah. He could, exactly. He could have got arrested. Do you remember Adventureland on Route 110?
Yes.
So, Route 110. You know Route 110? So when, Route 110. So my dad, I wanted to go to Adventureland. It was a weekday. And my mother said, "You're not going, it's a school night." Da-da. So I said, "Dad, can you tell?" And I had a little leather jacket.
I'm starting to think that it was because your father let you get away with stuff.
He did.
Your mother was like such a tough...
He did. He really did. He understood, like, he would always say, "It's not that bad. What's he doing? Big deal. Big deal. What's he doing? He's got firecrackers. Big deal." My mother goes, "He can blow up the house." I go, "He's not going to blow up the house." So I had a little jacket. He had a leather jacket. We got in the car, and he told my mother he was going to return some tape to Pergament. You remember Pergament? So
I hate to admit, yes.
Yeah, so we're supposed to, so we're driving there, and I go, we're going to Pergamon? He goes, no, we're going to go to Adventureland. So we're going to Adventureland, and then some guy was tailgating us, and my dad sort of pulled over, and the guy pulled over, and he's a big guy, came out, and he was furious at my dad. And my dad was like, what's going on? So my dad got out of the car, and I started crying. Dad, don't get out of the car. No, I'm just going to see what's going on. Get out of there. And the big guy slugged my dad. My dad went down, and I'm like, oh, my God, I'm hysterical. And that lady, his wife came out, started yelling at the guy, and all of a sudden my dad gave the guy a shot. The guy went down, and my dad gave him another shot, and he was out. Then I'm crying, comes back, goes, Stephen, go in the glove compartment and get the medical kit. I go, all right. He goes, open it up, calm down. Take out those little things of smelling salt. He gave this thing, the guy came through, and he took the tape that we were supposed to return to Pergamon, taped his hands, put him back in the car, drove away, and then I go, oh, are we going to Adventureland? Are we going home? He goes, we're going to Adventureland. Everything's all right. And we went to Adventureland, and that was my dad.
The picture is becoming clearer and clearer.
Yeah. That was my dad. Yeah. It was really great, and he was a great father. You know.
Anybody got any questions they'd like to venture? We could help me out here. Because they said they wanted to. Yes.
Hi. So it's so funny. I came to this talk just because I'm a huge fan.
Oh,
but
thank you.
I also am experiencing something similar with my father right now. So I didn't know that there would be this connection. But actually, the reason why I am a fan of you is because of my father and how he introduced me to films and old films and everything. And
Excuse me. I just no. I just wanted to point that out to Steve. Old films. Yes.
Hey.
no, but I knew who Jane Russell was, believe me. But one of my favorite films of yours is Diner, and he showed it to me, and I was like, oh, what? Like I already saw American Graffiti. This is going to be similar. I sat down. Now one of my #1 favorite movies, and I think it's a Christmas movie. I've had this argument with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of trying to find more Christmas movies that aren't, the generic ones. That's definitely a Christmas movie. I'll fight anyone.
Yeah, it took place during
Exactly.
Christmas time. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, the conversation and the dialogue in Diner is just seems so natural, and it seems so like something that you would just overhear if you were in a diner. Those
Sure.
kids and all the guy who's saying all the lines from the different movies, and
Yeah.
I just want to know,
Okay.
was it improv? Was there a lot of improv there? And then I also just want to know how was filming that dance scene? Because that dance scene is iconic.
Before you answer, people always think it's improv. It's just how good the work is.
Yeah.
It's supposed to look like it's real. But this is another thing that Steve, people don't know that much about, has worked with some of the most incredible directors. And of course, on that picture, Barry Levinson. So, so you're seeing, that at the height of his prowess too. I mean, he's just
He was great, and he would want us to do the scene, and then we were so hungry, we were just hungry, starving actors. He would say, at the end of the scene, if you want, let's keep. Well, actually, the first time he did it was he forgot to say cut, he forgot to say action, and we just kept going. We just started going like, so what, da-da-da. And then he said, at the end of every scene, you got to do my scene. And then if you want, do a minute of what you want, and we'll see if there's anything there. Now, there was a lot of stuff that didn't work, but sometimes there was stuff that worked. And then he would say, you know what? And he would write it down. I like that one. I didn't like this one. I like that one. I like that one. Do those parts again. Let's see if there's anything in there. And once in a while, we come up with some stuff that
How
worked.
great is it to work with Barry Levinson?
Yeah, really. A very funny, sweet guy, and smart, and very smart. And, you know what it's like. I'm sure you guys know, when in any of your professions, when you work with someone who's smart and has a good personality, if you do something wrong, they don't admonish you. They understand that you're working, that you're trying, boom, boom, you're trying to hit that bullseye. And they don't go, oh, you missed. They're just like, all right, keep going. And then finally, they know that you have some talent inside you. And then finally, sometimes you do hit the bullseye. And they're very, like Barry, a guy, or the great ones aren't guys who take credit. Well, I made that happen. They're like, we did it. Oh, we did a good job. Yeah. Together we did it. And the dance scene was a ball. We did it in a real strip club, and a real stripper was the lady. Yeah. And Tim Daly was we became buddies. I became buddies with everybody. And we did that scene, and it was, a lot of our shooting was at night. And sometimes middle of the night, good stuff comes. Like the best part of being an actor, not the best, I think one of the most important parts of being an actor is being relaxed. Like a lot of times I did acting classes, and it was like learning, the whole class was like, just learn to relax. I'm like, well, when are we going to do scenes? You'll do scenes when you're relaxed. And I was very, at night you get relaxed, and then, I was young, I could dance and everything. But I do remember at the end of that scene, it was about 5 or 6 in the morning, and I had a publicist. I started with a publicist, a guy named Wally Bean, who was Elvis's publicist at one time. And I called him, I said, I don't know about this, I don't know anything about movies, but I think that this movie is going to be good. And he said, you might be right, who knows? And that was it. But I enjoyed the movie, and I enjoyed the people. I enjoy working. I enjoy being around talented people, nice people. I think I flower when I can be myself, that I'm not afraid to be myself. I'm a bit of a corny guy. I'm a bit over-friendly sometimes, or I like to be really nice. I like to do nice things. And sometimes...
Treacly comes to mind. No, he is
it makes
truly...
me
I mean, if you know Steve for any amount of time, he truly... This is not something he puts on. It is his way.
It makes me feel... And it's
he's a mensch, I think is the word, yeah.
And then you connect with other people who are mensches. And then you start to find your tribe, the people that are like you, that are like-minded. There are some people who don't, I remember I was trying to get a job with a director. He just didn't like me because he was sort of in a different school, But anyway, with Diner, the guys were good guys.
Oh, and a great movie. Yes, dear.
Since your brother's passing, have you had any remarkable dreams about him?
Oh my gosh. I asked him when he passed, I was sitting with him for about 3 hours before the mortuary came. And I said, Dad, just show me a sign. Tell me a sign. Show me a sign. And I've heard all these theories that the brain is still alive even when your body passes. So I said, just show me a sign. The next morning, I was staying at my sister Susan's. I opened up the door, and right on the front mat was a white feather, right in the middle. I go, Dad, is that the sign? And then I turned around, and they had a little dog, and there was a white feather on the dog's nose. I go, Dad, is that you? And then I just started seeing white feathers in every way. And I still see white feathers. Sometimes I'll do the pillow, and a white feather will fly out, and I'll see it on the street. And I've only dreamed of him 3 times. And I told my sister, I dreamt about him once, about 6 months after he passed, and I would pray that I dreamed about him. I was in the kitchen, and I was with my nephew and my wife, and I heard a noise, and I went to the side, and there was my dad, strong and healthy. And I said, Dad, it's you. It's Dad, it's you. And I thought he was a ghost. And I said, Dad, can I hug you? And he said, yeah. And I went to hug him, and I thought I was going to hug the air, but I felt him. I couldn't believe I felt him. And I felt his hug. Then about a week ago, I was staying at my sister Judy's house. I had a dream about him that I saw him in the hallway. And I have a little OCD, and there was a tray that needed cleaning. And I'm like, Dad, how you doing? And I didn't think he was dead. I go, Dad, I'll be right back. And I went to return the tray, came back, he was gone. And just the other night, I had another dream about him where he was just standing there looking at me. And I don't remember. But, yeah, I miss him a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Yes, love.
First of all, it's a blessing to have your dad till 90.
Well, that's what my point. Yeah.
It's a true blessing.
You're right.
I did. But back to your career. You've had such a diverse career across
Yeah, after tonight. Go ahead.
I mean, other than Tony.
Before tonight. Go
All
ahead.
right, other than Tony.
Other than tonight.
Yeah. You know, I don't think I really have one. I'm not a favorites guy. I kind of just enjoy everybody. But I did this movie years ago when I was just the Boys from Brazil. And this guy named Franklin Schaffner, who directed Planet of the Apes, Papillon, Patton. He was a great director. And I was 18 years old. And he had me to dinner one time. And he said, I'm going to tell you something that is going to help you your whole career. And he said, just do this and you will have a career. He said, when you're acting, I want you to think about freedom. Study your lines, know where you have to put the coffee cup, know where you have to walk, know where you have to give the other actor his time to do everything, and then try to drop it all, and be free. So I always try to do that, and it was I think one of the greatest things anybody could tell me was that you have to, you always hear, know your lines, know where you go, blah, blah, blah. And he said, just before you start, drop it all. Forget your lines, forget where you have to go, forget everything, and just let your uniqueness come out. And then during the thing, you'll know what to say, you'll know where to put the coffee cup and all that, but just be free. Anyway, I think that, I always remember Frank Schaffner, what a nice guy he was. Tough guy.
You know, I had an experience like that with Donnelly Rhodes. You remember who Donnelly Rhodes was? He was the husband on Soap. On Soap, he played the guy who used to come in through the window.
Right.
The murderer.
Right.
He played my father on Taxi, and we went on a trip. A merchant sea. He was a merchant seaman, and I went out on a boat with him. And that was the show. We got in a big fight. There was we got tattoos together. It was a real father and son thing. But he said to me one day about acting. He said to me, "So, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do?" So I said, "Well, I try to learn my lines, but I don't want to learn them too good. I want to be real, I said, he says to me, "Hey, let me explain something to you. First of all, you can't be real unless you really know your lines, unless you really know them. So that's number one. But number two, you know what he told me? And it almost sounded like what you said. He said, you got to understand that nobody, you got to really believe this. You got to really believe this. Nobody can do what you can do. I can't do what Steve can do, but nobody can do what I can do. And if I really, truly believe that, and if I don't get in my own way, then I'll be okay. And it's always been the way that I approach it,
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what he said, let your uniqueness out.
Yeah.
Basically, it's that nobody else can do what you can do.
It's a great confidence builder.
And that's all it is. It's another thing about acting. It's just really about confidence. It's quite a thing.
Yeah.
It's wonderful when you get to do the things you love to do. Yes, sir.
I'm trying to reconcile the good guy kindness, like you're a mensch, with like breaking into Paramount Studios when you're 18 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
Setting up your own office. Yeah.
Right.
like how? Like what was that? Is that your dad's strength coming through? Like it just seems like the ballsiest thing.
It wasn't his mother's.
No. No. I don't know.
Well, why don't you tell the people this? Because not everybody's read the book. So just the incident.
I started going around to all the studios, and I would stand outside the studios. I mean, I was a fan, so I'd look at Warner Brothers, Universal, Columbia, MGM,
Paramount.
Paramount,
Oh man.
and Paramount. Paramount.
You see
well.
the gates. You just wouldn't. You just was like, ah.
It's like, yeah, it's like the castle.
Yeah.
It's like, and the inside, there's a world going on there. So I would be at the Bronson Gate, and
That's Paramount. Yeah.
and I would be out across. I would park in front of a deserted house, and I'd come in, and I would just stand there, and I saw people going through to a walkthrough, and there was those days they'd have a punch card, a time card. They punch it, wave to the guard, and then walk through. So I thought to myself, well, maybe I can do that, okay? So I went to this place called Zodi's. Do you remember Zodi's?
Yes.
So Zodi's was like a dollar store type thing. You remember that, right?
Yeah, 5 and 10.
Yeah. And I got a white card, and I stood there, and I waited for a gaggle of people, a bunch of people to go there. And I kind of got in the middle of them, and people were punching, and I'm going to my car, and I had a little briefcase, and I had my bar mitzvah sport coat on, corduroy, and I walked up there, and I looked at the guard, and I punched the card, and I put it in like a slot, and I went, hey, and then I walked in, and I was in Paramount. And I couldn't believe it, and I did that every day. And I would go to Little House on the Prairie, and I go to Happy Days, and I go to Mork and Mindy, and I go to all the sets. Gray Lady Down was shooting with Charlton Heston and Christopher Reeve, and I would go to the executive office, and then I'd stay there late at night. And all the executive offices in those days were open, because there was a cleaning crew. So I'd go to all the casting offices, a guy named Hoyt Bowers. Remember Hoyt Bowers?
Yes, yes.
And I would go there, and I would go into his office and look through what they were casting, and I would write it down. I would go into Michael Eisner's office and Barry Diller's office and see the deals and walk around. Anyway, one day, Bing Crosby had a production company, and he had golf carts. And I think he was the first guy to bring golf carts because he was a golfer. So I would take a golf cart, and I would drive around at night. And before the night ended, I went to the prop department. I walked around, there was an empty building called the Lucille Ball Makeup Building. And I would walk around, it's totally empty. And I said, wow, maybe I could put an office in here. So I went down, and I went to props, and I brought this phony thing, and I said, hey, I'm working for Happy Days, and we're redoing Mrs. Cunningham's kitchen. I need a desk, a chair, some lights, and everything. He's like, you're full of shit. I go, well, if you want to call Mr. Marshall, you can, but he's going to be mad. I need to get this stuff over now. And it was like late. And the guy goes, all right, take what you want. I took what I want. I lugged it up. Then my dad was an electrical engineer. We used to build all kinds of lights that blinked and, all kinds of stuff. And I knew
So you
about
got your father involved in this caper.
I got my dad involved.
Yes, yeah.
And I went to the water stage across the way. You remember the water stage there?
There used to be a giant sky.
Right.
It's the most incredible thing. It was the first thing I ever saw when I got there.
Right.
This giant sky was the background, so that they would fill up the parking lot with water, and they would use those miniature battleships. They shot Winds of War there, and the sky would be the background. But go ahead, I'm just filling it in.
So right next to the water stage, where they put the water, there was a stage, and it was right next to the Lucille Ball building. So I took a phone and I spliced it, and took me a while. I threw it up to the 4th floor where I had a little office. I got it up there, and I had an office. You couldn't dial, but I'd pick up the phone and I would call the operator, and I'd say, I just got disconnected from my mother and father, 516-293-9790, and they would reconnect me. And then I would make phone calls. Thursday came out television in Variety. Friday came out film. And I would call all the casting directors, and I would see if there were any parts. Then I called Hoyt Bowers, who was on Paramount, and I got in there, and I got him to talk to me. He threw me out a few times. And I got him to talk to me, and he called Fran Bascom over at MTM, and he said, I can't give you a part here, but there's a lady I know. And I went over there, and I got a part in a TV movie. And
how long did you have the office?
I had the office there for over 3 years. It's crazy.
Can you imagine?
It was the greatest. I had somewhere to go. Thing is, too, I'm a guy, I need somewhere to go.
Well, it's, when you can make one up like that. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Steve, I just wanted to first of all thank you for your motivational Instagram posts.
Oh, thanks. Oh, thanks.
Fond memories or fun anecdotes from Cocoon?
Oh, Cocoon, man. Well, I knew who all those people were.
Hume.
Yeah, you know Hume? Sure. And
Hume Cronin.
some of the greatest actors in the world, and they were super smart, incredibly friendly, Jack Guilford and Gwen Verdon and all those people. And I was with them every night. We had condos all near each other. So every night someone would make dinner. It would be like Maureen Staples is making dinner. She makes spaghetti. And, I'd make Mrs. Paul's fish sticks and stuff like that. And they all came and we all got to know each other really well. And Hume Cron and Jessica Tandy were really nice to me, and they said, we got some advice for you. We're going to go to dinner. Went to dinner, and they said, guess what our advice is? I said, know your character? No. Be nice to other actors? No. Know your lines really well? No. What's the most important thing? Save your money. And I said, oh, come on. They go, really? Save your money. Because there's going to be a time when it's slow, and you need that money. But I really enjoyed it. Ron Howard was a really nice man.
He's a good guy, yeah.
Good guy. He's super talented. And
I played on his softball team.
oh, so you know.
Happy Days softball.
Oh, right, right.
It was quite a time.
Great guy, and the whole experience was really wonderful. It was one I didn't want to end because it was nice.
Yes, dear. From the neighborhood.
Yes. Just wondering if you two have ever worked together professionally.
No, we haven't.
we
No,
haven't.
it's
I'd love
really-
to.
Love to, boy.
Yeah.
We haven't, yeah.
No, and the Odd Couple. That would be great. Remember when?
He would absolutely be Tony Randall.
No, I'm going to tell you the first time we met.
Go ahead.
The two times we met before we started becoming friends. One was with an old buddy of ours, Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, yeah.
and we were somewhere, and then we met up with you, and we had a great chat, and Woody knew you really well. We got, and then you did a picture with Holly Goldberg Sloan, who wrote Angels in the Outfield.
Right.
And then I did a picture with her, The Big Green, and we were somewhere, and we said hi. And then I saw you in Long Day's Journey.
No.
Where you played the bartender.
You mix me up with
Oh,
that one.
shoot.
No, The Iceman Cometh.
The Iceman Cometh. So I went to see The Iceman Cometh, and I saw Tony. And Tony was so great in that play. And it was like an epiphany, because I knew the play really well, and I worked with, who was O'Neill's muse, the great guy. I did a movie with him. He was married to Bogart's, Lauren Bacall. Jason Robards.
Robards.
Right.
Jesus.
And he always, talked about the play and everything. When I saw Tony
That's
do
right.
it.
He played Hickey. He
Yeah.
played Hickey.
Yeah. And he always talked about the play.
He came to see the play.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah. He came to see us.
You were so great in that play.
Oh, it was fun.
So great.
4.5-hour play, 19 actors in a play.
Yeah.
I mean, when do you see a play with 19 actors? It was amazing. I used to play this game with myself. I used to say it was 4.5 hours. I was Rocky the bartender, and so I had about 35 minutes, 30 minutes of dialogue spread out through the 4.5 hours. So basically, but I was on stage the whole time.
Yeah.
So I made up this game where, how long could you stay in, like in the play and not go, hey, look, it's Joe in the front row. Hey, what's up? You know what I mean? So could you stay?
Right.
do all your cues,
Yeah.
do all your laughs, move all the props, do everything you had to do in the play. I made a game. I keep score to see how I did.
Yeah.
And one day, I swear, I did a perfect show. But it was a matinee, so it didn't count. Yeah.
Oh, matinee. But I've seen Tony on stage a ton of times, and it's really, I've said it to you. You're a real artist. You love the craft. You practice your craft. So many times I'd walk out of the building. You go, come, I got a tap dancing lesson. Come over. And I would go over, and Tony's taking lessons with Liza Minnelli's there, and Tony's really working. You always work, and that always
It's to make up for a lost childhood, because I really didn't, I hadn't figured out that in order to be interesting, you had to be interested. You know, so I just figured that out last week, and I feel a lot better. But I just wasn't interested in anything, and now I'm so dying to be a student.
Yeah.
Trying to learn something.
You're a great student. And you're always learning, and you always want to do
Steve,
something.
here's the extra 10. That was perfect.
We're supposed to be 20. But that's what I mean. I
There's another
enjoy
question
it.
for you right there, sir.
So first of all, it's great to see you guys, and I will say, Steve, what you said about Tony, A View from the Bridge, if any of you guys saw it.
Oh,
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I wish you would redo that.
I got to actually work with Arthur Miller because he was around, when I did that play.
Wow.
And we used to go to Elaine's together. I was hanging out with Arthur Miller. It was
Oh.
unbelievable. It was really something.
really?
That was an amazing experience.
It's a God.
Something. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, no, it's true. We loved it. And so my point is, you guys, by a twist of fate, you found your profession, you found your career. You got to deal, sing at Sinatra's birthday party. And,
Yeah.
But just think, you played all these roles. Did you ever think, if you didn't go into acting or professional singing, was there any of these roles that you ever played that you thought maybe that would be your profession? Both of you.
Yeah, when I did Cocoon, I played a boat captain, and I thought that would be a great life. I like being outside. I like the sun. I like the water. Yeah, there were times when I thought about that.
If acting didn't come along, this would probably be a very different conversation, because I was a boxer, and I got out just in time. You know what I mean? It's just, it takes a toll on you. I really haven't played anything that I thought of as a occupation, because this thing that somehow I landed. I'm a garbage man son from Brooklyn. So this is quite a thing to be, find yourself in this position. And so I really try to savor it, I think, is the way to look at it. But,
Sure.
I'm lucky. We're lucky.
We're lucky that we got out of the crowd. you know?
Somehow. Sometimes I think, why?
Yeah,
Which is why.
it's amazing.
Sir.
Well, before I ask the question, I can say I identify with the book because I'm kind of going through a similar experience.
Oh.
But instead of
Have that inside you to take care of. Yeah. What does your wife have? Can I ask?
she has all,
Alzheimer's. Okay.
but and we were traveling while it was progressing. It was the best time in my life. It really was.
I
I'm glad
understand.
you get to spend that time.
Yeah.
Really am.
My,
And-
my question for you is, what are you doing next?
Good question.
Tony working on a play?
I've been working on a play this week. It's called It Fell Off a Truck. I did a play a couple of weeks ago called Windows, which may actually get to Broadway. Thank you. And I'm in a TV show, very different part for me. People say, I'm going to go watch Tony Danza. They think they see Who's the Boss. No. It's a very different show. It's called Raising Canaan. It's on Stars. And I play a pretty bad guy. So that's what I'm doing. Oh, and that's right. Thank you. Next Tuesday night, I open at 54 Below. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Everybody got to go to
Very
that.
excited. And 54 Below is interesting. First of all, it's become a nonprofit, and it's like, I don't know if you know what Leonard's of Great Neck is. Anybody know what Leonard's is? This crazy catering house. Right. It's the Leonard's of Great Neck of cabaret. One show after another show and everything else. But it's such an important piece of the New York scene, of the New York music scene. So many people that would never get a chance to play there, and they were all good. It's just that there's no venues. There are no venues. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. What are you doing, Steve?
Oh, I'm going to do a movie in June called American Summer, which is a kind of a sweet movie about a boy who's 13, what he's going through, coming of age, and then his older self, me, on screen talking and living the life that he has when he's older. And it's a bit of a poetic movie. You know, it's not really linear, but it's sort of a poetic movie by a good young director. And you never know how it's going to turn out. But I like the idea of sort of an older person looking at himself at 13 and saying, "Oh, you should have read that book, and you should have gone this way. And what are you hanging out with that crowd for? The smart kid is that's who you should be sitting with, and that sort of thing." So hopefully it'll turn out good. We'll
I
see.
wish you luck, man. I wish you luck.
selling your book, so I want to get people to buy it. I don't know where to go on, but plug the book, would you?
One more. I saw somebody in the back. Yes, go ahead, lady.
I was very touched, Steve, when you were describing the kind of care that you gave your father. As you saw him grow weaker, you started to mention that caregiving is very lonely. And I just wanted to know what you think gave you the strength over the years and over all those miles to care for your father as you did.
It was nothing. That was the weirdest thing. My dad would always say to me, "Don't walk a mile for someone who won't cross the street for you, but walk 10,000 miles through a hurricane for 1 minute with someone you love." And he would sort of say that all the time.
You see what I mean? Oh, yeah.
But it's like, but
Get me a drink.
it's like, let's get, but there's nothing to, spending an hour with someone I don't like is like, it's like eternity. But spending a minute with someone you love, it's like the greatest thing in the world. Or driving 400 miles, it was nothing. It was nothing because of...
You don't know where else you'd be.
That's it.
Yeah.
It was... I don't know. I'm sure we know that feeling. Like, and also my dad would always say, "We're in the effort business. You want to have a friend? Make the phone call. Do the text. Say, I'm in the area. I'd love to come by. Drive across town. Drive the hour. That's what it takes effort to be friends, to be happy with someone, to love someone. You got to get out of the apartment. You got to if you want to be with people you love, you got to make the effort. And then the reward of being with someone you like. I remember a while ago, I was trying to get in touch with Tony. This is a long time ago. And then you said, "Come on up to the apartment." And I came up, and I think you made me dinner. You made me like a great pot roast or something.
That was a brisket.
It was a brisket. Apology. Brisket. But Tony went to the effort of making the food, and I kept, because Tony was so busy and I wanted to stay in touch. And we hung out. And just hanging out is a great luxury. It's the great luxury of life. Talking, sharing, being quiet together, talking. Just about life. You want to be friends. You love someone. So that's, seeing my dad was driving there was nothing. Yeah. It was nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, dear.
I want to say thank you so much. This really was what I needed. I have a 99-year-old mother who I visit frequently at the nursing home.
Wow.
It's very draining. I've been weeping.
Oh, it's so hard.
Days,
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, you're great.
Hang in there.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
It's not easy, I know.
50 years ago, you and I had businesses right
Oh God. I was like, where's she going with this?
I used to own a little gift shop next to, is it Penny's?
Oh, no kidding. Holy mackerel. I used to have a bar in Malvern, in Long Island. I had a bar called Pennyworth.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, it was a bucket of blood, but it was a nice place. No.
In
No,
Melbourne.
you were right there. Is that right? Wow.
Gift shop. I used to come hang out with
I used, yeah.
you to get delivered. You had that lovely cousin.
My cousin Jerry. Yeah. She's still around. Oh, I'm going to tell her. I'm going to so tell her.
Buy penny candy for me every day. I'm hoping
Yeah. It was fun. It was.
you guys made my evening.
Thank you. You made my evening. Where are we? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Well, it's nice, Steve, nice to meet you again. About 15 years ago when your first book came out, I met up with you.
The Gutenberg Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I happen to know all his books.
It was the Disco Kids.
Sorry?
Disco Kids book.
Oh, the kid book, Kids from Disco.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun little book about my nieces and nephews.
When he was mentioning how genuine you are, I honestly can say that from that one meeting, it was like everything he said was true because it was only a matter of a few moments, but from that time, anytime I tell somebody about it, it's like he was one of the most genuine, most like down to earth people I've ever met. So welcoming, so gracious. So I appreciate it, and it's really great to see you again.
Thanks for saying that, But I think I've learned, I think that's something that I learned from my parents and people I respect. Be yourself. Be yourself. Like we're talking about acting, nobody can be us. Be yourself. Maybe you're not the toughest guy, the strongest, the tallest guy, the smartest guy. Just be yourself, and you'll find your own tribe. You'll find your thing. There were so many times in my life I tried to be someone else. I couldn't keep, first of all, I could never keep that up. So you kind of portray yourself as something you're not. And then it takes so much energy to be that person. So I've always, most of the time, I try to be myself and not be afraid to be myself, and everything will work out. So I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
I just wanted to add how when you did Short Circuit, was that like was it an actual like robot? Was it somebody you worked with?
Oh.
With that?
It was a special effect. Visual effects are computer generated, but it was actually a puppet. It was this giant puppet, and they had 30 or 40 of these, and they had all kinds of expressions. And the guy directed it was this guy John Badham, who actually directed Saturday Night Fever. So he was great with movement, and he was able to make that robot move and talk as if it was alive. And I think that's what acting is. I'm acting with an inanimate object, but I really believed it was alive when I was talking to it. It was a great experience. It was fascinating that the robot itself came to life. And I did have one experience, and I always forget what it was, where I was sort of alone with the robot.
You sure you want to tell this story?
Why?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I mean,
Nobody's going to say anything.
yeah.
So I was alone rehearsing with the robot and trying to act, and I'm telling you, the robot moved, and it did a little something, and I'm like, hey, you guys, cut it out. So I went behind where the ropes were, and there was no one there. And I came back, and I went, this is too creepy for me. I'm not going to rehearse alone with the robot anymore.
Well, I think our time is just about up. Steve, thank you for writing the book, and thank you for doing this, and thank you for asking me. And thank you all for being here and being such a wonderful audience.
Thanks. Oh, thanks, Tom. I love you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
I want to say hello to a friend of Emily's, number one.
Oh, great.
Number two, I have a cousin who's a
Oh, yeah.
She's outlived